Time. There'll be time. You guys are going to be here for a little while.
Okay.
Live.
That's right.
Okay. Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees, regular meeting for Tuesday, March 26, 2024 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Monahan.
Here.
Trustee Kermy. Here. Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Clerk Vorba here. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Here.
Supervisor Heisler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance today. How about Glenn Miller in the back row?
Former Eagle Scout?
Current.
Always. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Glenn. And Mr. Stewart is absolutely right. Once an Eagle Scout, always an Eagle Scout. It's like being a Marine, right? So once a Marine, always a Marine.
Marines don't wear hats
Mr.
indoors.
Supervisor.
Pardon me? What was that?
Marines don't wear hats indoors.
Ooh, that's right. Okay, got the Pledge of Allegiance done. Approval of the agenda.
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr.
I
Clerk.
move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, March 26, 2024.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Treasurer Dorchevitz. Okay, at this point,
All in favor?
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, closed session. It is 6:01, and I move that a closed session be called in response to a request by the Township Labor Attorney, John Clark, pursuant to MCL 15.268, subsection 1H, to discuss an attorney-client privilege memorandum that is exempt from disclosure pursuant to MCL 15.2431G. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart. Yes. Motion carries.
Okay, so for those of you watching at home, we're going to go into closed session right now. The cameras are going to continue rolling because once they're on, that we can't stop them. So we'll be back hopefully within the hour to resume the regular meeting. Thank you. Should be. You have a cell?
I thought I did.
Don't know.
Probably waiting till 7.
Jerry, do you know where Cutie is?
Who? She's coming.
She's coming. Okay, well, we're technically in closed session right now. So.
Until you call back in.
Yep, I know. All right, it is 6:29. I move that the board return to open session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Monahan.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Trustee Buckley.
Here.
Clerk Forba, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Back in session.
okay, at this time I move to approve the recommendation of the Labor Council that was expressed to us in the closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Forba. Please take a roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Forba, yes. Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart. Motion carries.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda. Questions, comments?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk?
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for the meeting for the day March 26, 2024.
Okay, need a motion to approve the consent agenda. It was from Clerk Forba, seconded by Trustee Monahan. We will need a roll call on this as we have some resolutions.
Trustee Stewart. Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Clerk Forba, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, public comment, limited to 3 minutes. Put your bubble machine out there.
Just a second, Dale.
Everybody hear me?
Yep.
My name's Dale Bernhardt. So at this point, most residents are aware that the Northville Downs owners have filed a $10 million lawsuit against Plymouth Township. Many also know when the enticement began to bring the gambling site to Plymouth Township and what the enticement consisted of, as stated in the lawsuit in Detroit News. What is also known is that Mr. Heisey, as quoted, indicated the gambling site would be disruptive and controversial, but never told the residents this. For myself, I would have liked to have known up front that my supervisor knew this gambling site would be disruptive. That would be a good piece of information to have. I wonder, did Mr. Heisey even inform our trustees that he was planning to bring a disruptive gambling site to our township? There was never any township publication up front stating this. The residents were totally unaware until the grassroots non-political group from our township got involved and brought factual issues to the residents and board. Also discovered is that property values could plummet from 7 to 10% with a gambling site in the community. Also brought to the attention of residents is that breakage fees from Northville Downs, as quoted by Mr. Heisey, would be used for parks and recs, not exclusively for police, fire, and EMS, as they are supposed to be used for and how Northville used theirs. So Plymouth Township residents could be on the hook for police, fire, EMS because of the gambling site. So my point is that residents have a lot to lose if the Downs is successful with their suit. I understand the suit is going to dive into the legal issues. Was there extortion? Was there bad faith bargaining by the Downs? Did the Downs fulfill their PUD requirements? The judge and potential jurors will sort that out. But what is missing is the will of the people and the societal issues. Where and how will the residents be able to voice their quality of life issues, their moral and value issues, their issues concerning treatment of animals, and the facts concerning gambling and alcohol addiction to this court? Really, all the issues that have been presented to this board for 1 year plus. We expect and demand a seat at the table. It is imperative that a decision is not just based on legality, but also taking into account the toll that will be placed on our community. So how do we gain representation? Will our township insurance lawyer represent us? Will you, Mr. Heisey, represent us? We do require an answer to this question well before any court decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else at this time?
I guess you all know I'm Dwayne Zantap. I FOIA'd 3 years of police and fire service calls in Northville Township, Myers. I was shocked when they answered my FOIA promptly and provided me with 70 pages of police calls. This is over a 3-year period. I saw the township supervisor at the convention. He told me sometimes there's as many as 5 police calls a day. This is very concerning to many of us. In the future, I would ask all of you trustees to do your due diligence. I'm not accusing you of anything, but we need to look into things like this before we vote. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else at this time? Is Liz here? Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name is Diane Bellowis, and at the last board meeting, Robert Harris brought up the Northville Down lawsuit, and you had the audacity, Mr. Heisey, to chastise him by saying you found it ironic that a resident came up here and called the group of individuals puppets and defend Carlo Brothers and Mike Cox by taking a position against the best interests of your community. Well, I find it ironic that you would call out Mr. Harris when it was you and Gary Heitman that promised the Carlo Brothers and Mike Cox a speedy process by the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees, minus Chuck Kermy, approval. Did you consider the best interests of your constituents when you started this whole devious business venture? I think not, or we wouldn't be in this lawsuit fiasco today. You made a comment that you would certainly make note of Mr. Harris's comments. Well, you can be rest assured that Plymouth Township voters will be certainly making a note of your comments and backroom deals. There's one other thing I have to say here, and you posted on your Facebook page, Kurt Heisey for Supervisor, that Chuck Kermy and Ron Edwards closed Fire Station 2. That is a flat-out lie. Chuck Kermy wasn't even on the board when Station 2 was closed. You then proceeded to give yourself kudos for reopening it. Let's be clear, Kurt, this is not a board of one. There are 6 other members that voted unanimously to open it. You blocked many people from your page so they are unable to point out your lies. Since it's a political page and not a private individual page, you need to either unblock everyone or close the page completely, because there has been a recent court ruling that you should consider, because this is actually illegal what you're doing. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I saw she.
Just stand here. Hi, Mary Pine. We have lived here since 1978 when my husband finished his military service with a top secret military and civilian Q clearance, working for the Atomic Energy Commission and Naval Nuclear Reactors, our defense system. I was vetted by the FBI for these clearances. We are both able to distinguish the need to know versus discretion. We have witnessed too much secrecy that does not benefit the residents. Again, the residents are not being informed about important issues. These are affecting their health. Just like the Michigan legislation passed the change to the auto no-fault laws in the dark of night with resultant deaths because the Supreme Court had to step in and the people had already died, it appears that smart meters are on this agenda with no discussion and also the appearance of limiting Huron Valley ambulances for the residents. Just like the auto insurers were driving the media and the push to change the auto no-fault law, the FCC, influenced by the industry, is suggesting little health risk of smart meters despite studies showing impacts of cancer, oxidative damage, ROS, DNA damage, DNA repair failure, cardiac arrhythmias, and other effects on heart muscles, as well as blood pressure, vascular effects, sleep disturbances, memory loss, changes to the blood-brain barrier, and affects the neuron rate firing and EEG, disrupted immune function, and change in stress protein to HSP, reproductive and fertility effects. This is a disconnect that we have experienced just recently with this whole debacle that we now have in a lawsuit. Food for thought. Northville Downs is a risk to our community. One data point alone is how it would affect property values as pointed out by a realtor. Smart meters are a risk to our health. Detroit Edison offered the option to pay an initial fee to not get the smart electric meters and to pay a monthly fee not to have it. We did and we do to protect our health. Rather reminds me of the protection rackets one sees in the police shows. Pay money not to be harmed. It's exactly what it is. Please show ethical treatment towards your residents. Do not harm us with smart meters.
Okay.
Ready? Hi, I'm Bill Pine. I'm here to share some thoughts with you regarding smart meters as well. And when I saw it was on the agenda, I looked in the packet to see what was up. After reading the packet, I need to talk with you about health and financials. Before I start though, by show of hands, how many of you have read and understand the smart meter presentation in the packet?
We're not polling anybody here tonight, sir. You know the rules.
As usual, Kurt, I'll take that except for Bob probably doesn't know. The packet states there is nothing to worry about regarding RF emissions based on FCC standards, including issues or no potential impact on cancer. I haven't told many of you this, but I'm a cancer survivor. I'm very sensitive about claims like this. These are radiation burns and surgical scars. The other people I know had this cancer, are dead. The FCC is what is known in Washington, D.C. as a captive agency. It's typically headed by former telecom executives and staff of telecom lawyers, so when they make claims about health issues, I'm skeptical. I am particularly skeptical when I see reports from those like the National Institute of Health and Environmental Services, which is part of the National Institute of Health, that reports that these emissions are tied to clear evidence of cancer. I don't know what the answer is, but I'd vote for the doctors. The Michigan Constitution, Article 4, Section 51, states that the health of citizens is a primary concern of government officials. Before you consider any rush to judgment on smart meters, you need to have a much better handle on health issues. Try contacting the NIH, perhaps. You don't want this to happen to you or your loved ones. After I got out of the Navy, I made my living doing financial analysis, among other things, from major corporations down to startups. I've worked with investment banks and equity funds. There isn't enough detail in the package that was provided to you guys, which is why I asked if you understood it, to understand what's in there, particularly for the benefits. Furthermore, the internal rates of return and payback periods are A, abysmally poor, and B, crazily long. Your payback and the life of the equipment are about the same. You'd probably be better off just buying the manual meters and giving the extra CapEx to Bob Dorshevitz to invest, and you'd probably be substantially better off. If you can afford to wait several years for smart meters to evolve further, both from a cost and health standpoint, that would probably be a more prudent course of action to follow. If this really is a non-financial initiative, you ought to just say that and explain what your desire to have it be considered as such. You need to do a lot more homework before you consider giving the go-ahead to smart meters. You don't want to worry about those that you love from a cancer standpoint, and you don't have to worry about that happening in 8 to 10 years, which is what it would take. You want to show responsibility for how the township's money is spent, and if you do approve the smart meters, not only you're acting irresponsibly from a financial standpoint, but you're also indicating you don't care about your families and neighbors' health. Get more data, take more time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? We're still in public comment here right now, so. All good? All good? Okay. All right, let's see. What we're gonna do now is, because the public hearing on the MITC Parcel 13 Brownfield Plan Amendment Number 5 was advertised to occur at 7 o'clock, as well as, well, certainly the public hearing was advertised for 7 o'clock. So we're going to delay any action on that until 7 o'clock or shortly thereafter. So at this point, I'm going to like to move down to item G3. This is 2024 budget adjustments and 2023 carry forwards. Elizabeth Cutie, Finance Director, is here with us tonight.
Bob, there should be a presentation on that laptop. Thank you. Okay. Tonight I'm just going to take you through real quick some high-level information on the budget amendment that I'm bringing to you tonight. We'll start with the general fund. This slide here, I wanted to bring to your attention before anybody has concerns about how much additional appropriations are being presented tonight. Half of them are budget carry forwards from last year, and half are new appropriations, a good portion of which you're probably already familiar with, and I'll get into that detail. So regarding the budget carry forwards, as you know, those items were already approved in last year's budget, and for whatever reason, they didn't get spent. There might have been a delay in receiving the product, not sure. So those unspent funds would have gone into fund balance at the end of last year. And so this is just bringing them forward so that when the expenditures come through, that we have appropriate budget for that. Next slide, please. Thank you. The carry forwards consist of a new copier for the supervisor's office, various technology items. I believe those are servers and things related to servers that needed to be purchased. Various election expenses for the clerk's office.
Tell us about that 94,000.
Yes, that's,
Your mic is off.
I'm sorry. Those are items that we budgeted, and we may not have received the bills as of yet for those items. And then, of course, you realize that much of this is going to be paid for by the state of Michigan. They have sent us a request of all of our expenses, and we're in the process of giving them all that data. So this is stuff that's carried forward that we knew we were going to expense, but has not been billed yet.
The 75,000 down there, that budgeted for 75,000, the dollar sign's missing, but I assume that means dollars, right?
Yes, that is the budgeted reimbursement from the state for election expenses.
So that's what your estimate of reimbursement is.
Yes.
And what is your confidence that the state is going to reimburse at least 75,000?
You don't know until they do.
I don't know. I really don't know.
So they're not giving you any indication? They just have asked for the list?
Yes.
An itemized list of
Yes.
expenses? Which includes, you can include labor?
Yes, absolutely.
That's got to be the bulk of the expense.
The bulk of the expense is going to be labor.
So then there's just a few other miscellaneous items totaling a couple $100. So that's what makes up the PO carry forwards. Next slide, please. These are additional appropriations. The data storage purchase for $125,000, I believe that was discussed at the last board meeting, so you should be familiar with that. We have a traffic safety grant that started last fall, and police officers will be working overtime on traffic detail for that. So we have $13,300 budgeted for this year for that, and we have a corresponding revenue figure that we will also recognize in that same amount. We also have a couple of tweaks to the building department budget for a recent retiree who's returning on a part-time basis to assist the two new ladies that are in the department.
I have a question on that. Why is that in the general fund and not in the building, building fund has a lot of extra money? Why are we putting it in general fund?
The building department doesn't have its own fund. It's a department within the general fund.
Yeah.
But, okay, but their funds, everything you collect in building fees must stay in the building department.
Yes.
So this is a sub-fund for
It's a
building,
department.
but it's in the general fund. I just want to make sure that, because that fund is pretty flush with money, the building department.
Yeah, we
More
keep
than
an
it
eye
can
on
use, because it can't be used, you can't hire a fireman with it.
Right.
All right.
Also, there was, I had to adjust the budget for a termination payout for that retiree. And then other miscellaneous items make up about $10,000 for a total of $186,000 in additional expenditures. Next slide, please. This is the revenue that I'm going to be recognizing. Like I said, the Office of Highway Safety Grant in the amount of $13,300. And also I bumped up the Hilltop Golf Course revenue sharing account by $60,500 because we got a pretty good sized check from them. So we're recognizing an additional $73,800 in revenue in the general fund. Next slide. I want to be very cautious about this because our 2023 figures are not audited yet. So I provided you with an estimated beginning fund balance for 2024 based on the activity I'm seeing in fiscal year 2023. Again, that's not audited, it's not final yet, so just don't take this to the bank.
So I think, what this implies is that the budget exceeds revenue, the expenses exceed revenue, but isn't there ARPA funds that are being expended as part of that could cause these numbers to be a little misleading?
If you're talking about ARPA funds, those would be in a different fund entirely. This is just the general fund.
So that's 300,000 difference there, is that right? Is that right?
Correct. And like I said, about half of that is due to budget carry forwards. So unspent funds from 2023.
Okay, that's the tie back to your first slide.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, all for a lot, 186,000 is in the first slide. Of the 300. You reconciled at least 186,000, or was it?
178,000 are budget carry forwards, and 186 are new items being
Okay,
put in the budget.
that's the 365 total, 265,000?
Yes, and then you have to take the revenue away from that, that offsets that. So a net impact on fiscal year 2024 is about 291,000.
But what's the story
for the drop in fund balance, what's the explanation for almost $300,000 drop in fund balance?
9.5 versus 9.2, right?
Yes.
Right.
That's the the net effect of the additional appropriations that are being approved tonight.
Because there was money in the ending fund balance, there was money that was unspent, so that
Yes.
made that look artificially high. That money carried
Yes.
over, and it makes it look as though we're spending 300,000
Yes.
out of savings, but that's not really the true story there.
Correct. Yes. You're exactly right. So just, I knew that the question would come up about fund balance. I was a little hesitant to show this slide just because I know sometimes it invites some questions that are sometimes a little difficult to explain, but I'm comfortable with these figures the way they are. Okay, moving on, federal forfeiture fund. The rest of these slides are pretty simple. A carry forward of $174,190 for police vehicles.
Will be ordered in 2024, is that what that means?
Are they already here?
Already ordered,
Yeah,
have not been received.
yes. Okay. Moving on to the drug law enforcement fund. Another carry forward, the remaining expenses of the remodel of the police station. The original amount was about $44,000.
What are those remaining 16,000?
Paint?
Is it paint
We
or
have
carpet?
carpet, paint, and cabinetry work. We're waiting on vendors for that.
So no one's quoted it yet?
It's been quoted, we're waiting on the work.
All the
for
work to be
workers
done, we're in the
out.
queue.
Yes.
Yep. All right, next slide, please. Need to fast forward to that one. I took that out of my version, but it's still in here. Okay, yeah, opioid. Okay, just a small tweak to the budget for overtime duty and supplies and community outreach activities using the opioid settlement money. So
tell me a little bit about what we're doing for outreach, or is this is separate from the safety grant from the state of Michigan where we're doing traffic enforcement?
it is separate.
But tell me about the outreach.
Chuck, the money's coming in from the federal lawsuits against pharmaceutical companies, so we're getting a percentage based on numbers that were established by the state. I had a meeting week and a half ago with the Attorney General, had an open forum in Canton in reference to how communities were going to utilize the funds. There was a lot of discussion of different programs that were used for folks that have addiction issues now. I discussed some of the preemptive and proactive approaches that we have with education, with students, as well as that. So we're building out a strategy. We spent very little of this money so far, but we have the two Operation Takebacks that we have. So we have those where we partner with DEA. We have One Pill Can Kill presentations. We have overtime that comes of some of those events, so that will be part of what we'll use it for. So we are building out a strategy for using that for prevention, as well as we're meeting with the families against narcotics next week. They have several programs that they offer, so we're going to sit down with them and see what type of programs they offer. They have a Hope Not Handcuffs program that they have that Canton utilizes. We're going to look at that program and things like that. We've met with Higuera as well. Wayne County has some services that they offer that we're going to start utilizing, as far as they have mobile units that are going to be out as part of a grant. So we're looking at that as well. So we're looking at all avenues for that. But we have spent very little of or any of
That's
that
good. I'm
money yet.
glad. Fentanyl and educating people. I don't know how you get to them, but I'm glad the one pill can kill, because
Yes,
there's
sir.
a lot of naive people that have no idea what will be done to them.
Yeah, and the research is showing that kids, younger and younger every year, and a lot of times, many times these pills where they get started are in their own house. So that the education piece, I think, is very vital and very important. So we're going to start there, and then and that will be part of the strategy we use for that funding.
Are you going to do anything with naloxone in terms of, yeah, if there is an overdose, what you can use to counteract that?
Yeah, that will be part of the education. I know the Families Against Narcotics, they have programs with that. Of course, our officers utilize that. I know the county has a system where they have, they're currently working on where they're going to have vending machines in the communities. The discussions have started on that type of strategy, but absolutely, yeah.
Okay, next slide, please. Next one. Okay, the biggest part of the carry forward for the ARPA fund is the ambulance and all the upfittings that go with it. That was just received at the end of February. And so we're carrying forward $325,000 for that. I don't know that it's going to actually cost that much, but it seems like when Carol and I looked at it, it didn't seem like it was going to be that much, but
Right, it
I
should be
carried
close.
forward the whole amount just in case.
So we've already paid the base vehicle. This 325 is for upfitting only.
No, no.
No, this is
everything.
for the ambulance and the upfitting.
So we must have spent some of that in order to take delivery. We
We
spent
spent
some already.
$275 on the ambulance.
Pardon?
$275 for the ambulance.
Has already
roughly.
been, is committed and probably spent. All right, so that number is already shrunk way down.
Yeah.
325.
And then $4,600 for graphics for the new senior transport vans. I believe those have been completed already.
Cost that much money for your graphics? Wow.
Yep.
Gift for it.
Okay, moving on to water and sewer. All right. Carry forwards for this fund are about $187,000, made up of various items, breakaway kits, hydrant parts, AMI analysis, water tank repair, different things, totaling $109,000.
What did you do? What are breakaway kits and what was the water tank repair?
I am not exactly certain of those.
Water person's in here. The boss. Like a tutorial for the board.
So breakaway kits are retrofitting the old fire hydrants that protects them when a vehicle hits it.
Okay, so it's a repair after it's been damaged?
It's a retrofit of, it's both. You can repair the hydrant after it's broken, and you can also retrofit it to, if it's the old.
So
type
you're
of hydrants.
retrofitting in anticipation of a car hitting it?
Yeah, it's just to bring it up to a newer style of hydrant. And then the hydrant parts are just hydrant parts.
All right, I understand.
And
AMI we're doing tonight?
water tank repairs, recoating the water tanks. It's
On
something
the
like-
inside, recoating?
On the inside and outside, rehabilitating both.
We're not doing a complete paint job, we're doing spotting?
Well, it's in the plan, design. I mean.
Okay, we're
yeah,
considering it.
We're looking into that this year.
It seems like a low number. Painting is expensive. It'd be a
Correct.
lot bigger than
Yes. Yeah.
a portion of that number.
So then the second figure underneath that is just for various capital outlay, cargo van, a pump, truck lights, and then just other miscellaneous items in the amount of about $7,700. So, that is all I have. One thing I forgot to mention right at the beginning is in the board packet, you have the resolution, the request for board action memo, and then you have my detail sheet by account number that lists out all of the items that make up the totals.
Right.
And Trustee Kermy had asked in a prior meeting about trying to kind of cross-reference items from the detail sheet to the resolution and the memo. So in the memo, I've put a number key by each item, and then you'll find that same number key on your detail sheet with all the account
Bob, will you bring
numbers.
that up? Because I could not figure that out. I was looking for like I thought it was great, you did that, but I could not. It's page number 149, for example. That's where the number would go to this detail, right? It would call out something.
The section headings, you'll see.
Like 180, 101.
Yeah,
Those are
the
account
general
number.
fund, you're gonna see number 1.
Yes, oh, there it is.
Okay, and then
in
it
the
says,
parentheses.
see accompanying request for board action memo. Then you can turn to that memo and you can find item number 1 on there where those dollars are summarized.
Yeah, that was the problem. That's why I wanted him to bring it up on the screen so we can learn. Thank you for doing this. This is great.
You're welcome.
In fact, that PowerPoint was perfect. It answered
Oh, good.
all of my questions.
Good,
So that's
Excellent.
great.
thank you.
Completed staff work. You read my mind. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Any other questions from trustees? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, sir.
I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby adopt Resolution 2024-03-26-16, authorizing various fiscal year 2024 budget amendments and fiscal year 2023 carry-forwards as outlined in the attachment.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Buckley. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley. Yes. Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart. Yes. Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're going to go back up to item G1. This is the public hearing to receive comments concerning the MITC Parcel 13 Brownfield Plan Amendment Number 5. I move that we open the public hearing at 7:06. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
This is to open the.
Open the
Public
meeting.
hearing.
Public
Yes.
hearing. Trustee Stewart. Yes. Trustee Buckley. Yes. Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Motion
Okay.
carries.
All right, we are open for the public hearing on that item. It's 7:07 now. I would just ask that Dr. Harless and Ms. Stasek just hold off until we get to the next agenda item, as this is for the public consumption.
Could we please have them raise their hand?
Well, they're going to be introduced in the next agenda item, John. Okay? Okay. Yep, all righty. Okay, John. Hearing nothing, I'm going to move that we close the public hearing at 7:07 as well. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Treasurer Dorchevitz. Is there, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart. Trustee Stewart.
Trustee Stewart?
Yeah, Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes.
Okay, we're going to
Motion
move on to, thank you very much. We're going to move on to item G2, this MITC Brownfield Redevelopment Plan Amendment Number 5. This memo is one that I enjoy doing because I don't have to modify it too much. Let's just back up to that. So this is now the 5th amendment to the MITC Brownfield Development Plan required by state law. This amendment was approved by the MITC Authority Board and last Thursday by the Northville Township Board of Trustees. As with previous plan amendments, we are again modifying the original source plan or touchstone plan, the Parcel 13 Brownfield Plan, first approved in 2018, which again sets forth all of the other subsequent plan amendments in the MITC development zone. Amendment number 5 adds the new Myers facility on 5 Mile, approximately 21.53 acres. Plan includes approval of eligible activities and costs of $12,829,000 for the Meyer development, of which $3,846,000 is for eligible environmental activities and $8,983,000 are for public infrastructure and eligible site preparation activities. So they're talking about things like 5 Mile Road and the improvements to 5 Mile. Under current assumptions of current and future taxable values, Meyer will have reimbursed approximately $6 million of their eligible costs by the time the Parcel 13 Brownfield Plan terminates in 2048 pursuant to the state Brownfield law. So Jim Harless is becoming a frequent flyer at our meetings. We also have Emma Stasek here from MEDC. I think what I'd like to do is have Dr. Harless come up first and just answer any questions that anybody might have. I think our last amendment to the MITC plan was probably about three months ago, or maybe a little bit more. So these are going to be coming in a little bit more frequently now as the MITC development zone continues to grow on both sides of 5 Mile. We have many exciting, hold on. Hey, Patrick, just shut the door there, please. Thanks, buddy. As we see more projects come to fruition along the MITC corridor. So Dr. Harless, please provide any additional detail to this item and then be ready to answer any questions that you may have from the board.
Thank you. Well, the project is on about 21.5 acres of what we call Parcel 15, which was the site of the Dahoko prison facility itself. As you may know, the entire redevelopment area was part of the Dahoko property originally, approximately 800 acres. This parcel, which is a total of about 117 acres, as I said, was the site of the original prison facilities. It is a very difficult parcel to redevelop. I think we're very fortunate to have a developer that's willing to tackle it. There are over 1,000 feet of buried tunnels, each of which has asbestos-wrapped pipe in it. There's soil and groundwater contamination. There are extensive residual foundations from the buildings that were demolished. The land bank demolished those about 7 years ago to the ground. Nothing underneath. The old utilities.
State legislature demolished it. That was my bill. $2 million.
I stand corrected.
Yeah.
The land bank does have a lot of money tied up in this, and this development will allow them to actually sell that whole parcel to Redico and recoup a lot of the money that they've invested in cleaning it up and getting it ready for redevelopment. So, as Supervisor Heisey said, we have about $12.8 million in eligible activities that are necessary to get this site redeveloped. About 3.8 million of that is environmental. A lot of that is going to be vapor intrusion mitigation under the buildings. There are volatile organics there that intrusion in the buildings is a risk pathway. About 8.9 million is in site prep. That is to demolish the existing foundations, do the asbestos abatement. There needs to be a detention basin built. There's an 8-foot pathway for bicycles and pedestrians that are going to go across the property from east to west along 5 Mile Road. And there are also a number of public utility upgrades to both the water main, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer that Meyer is going to be funding the cost for. And that will go all the way across Parcel 15, not just their portion of it. This parcel has not generated taxes in over 94 years. In the 7 years since the facilities were demolished, there has not been a development come forward yet. It is, like I said before, it's very nice to have a developer that's willing to take on this type of project, incurring something over $12 million and only looking to be reimbursed about 6 to 7. So they are footing the bill for an awful lot of the
Can you repeat that again? Because I know there's a lot of misinformation out there about that.
They are looking to incur about $12.8 million in eligible activities to get this site where it can be used. they will only be reimbursed about 6 to 7 million over the remaining time in this brownfield plan.
And how many years will that take?
23.
23 years then before the tax increment revenue then will flow to the taxing authorities after about 23 years?
For the taxing authorities from which tax increment revenue is captured, that's correct. There are several that we cannot capture from, but you're correct.
What are they? You mean like the library or something?
It's the zoo.
Oh, the zoo? All right.
School.
Yeah, there's a school
DIA.
debt, the zoo.
That's by state law, or they
State law.
petitioned?
And the Art Institute. The zoo, and that's by Act 381, we cannot capture debt
State law.
millages. And by statute, the zoo and the Art Institute are exempt from tax increment financing.
Okay, so the school debt will be captured and paid, not captured, will be
It'll
transferred, flow to that taxing authority?
That is correct.
The
It will
Plymouth
not be
Canton
captured.
schools or?
Yes, that's correct.
So why does it terminate or expire at 23 years instead of going into the 30s?
Statutorily, under Act 381, you can only capture on a brownfield plan for 30 years.
Right.
We are already, by the time we start capturing for this project, we'll be 7 years into the brownfield plan. It started
because it's
with,
tied back
Tied
to the
back to the original.
2018.
yeah, it goes all the way back to the original site number 3.
2018.
And
Yeah,
when
yeah.
Hillside purchased what is now parcel 13.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is this last sentence on the memo where it says, the projected cost of the project is approximately 15.3 million?
That's the private investment, the estimated private
That's
investment.
the building?
That's all of the expense to get that project up, both buildings, the gasoline service station, the pavement, everything it takes.
Okay, so the eligible activities of 12.8, tell me the math. And the
That's
15
not
point-
in the 15.
Okay, that's where I'm confused.
That's correct.
Okay, the
Yes.
12.8 is the eligible activities, the 15.3 is the addition over and above the eligible activities.
That is
Which would
what
be,
we've
for example, the
received.
steel
Yes.
structure, the building, the fixtures, the
Yes.
freezers, all of that thing, and gas pumps and tanks and things like that.
Correct.
What is meant by eligible activities?
Under Act 381, there's a limitation on what can be reimbursed as a brownfield redevelopment cost. So if you go into the act, there's a series of eligible activities for both the environmental side and the non-environmental side.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the 6 million, that is assuming certain growth that would generate X amount of taxes, and that would they would capture 6 million based on some assumptions in the model. But if the tax rates went up, or the market value for the house is, or the assessed value for the property rather, rose at a rate greater than your model predicted, then they would be, possibly could capture more than 6 million of.
Yes, that's why I said it appears that over the 23 years, we'll be able to capture somewhere between 6 and 7 million
Yeah, okay,
of that 12.
based on the assumptions.
Yes.
So how much, at the end of the day, how much is Meyer going to eat as a result of this?
Between $5 to $7 million.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Dr. Harless? Just want to point out, too, that because of this and other projects that I mentioned earlier, we already have an interest now in a parcel back here from a major CNC manufacturing operation. And just for everybody's edification, this is right about here is where the NEL hydrogen facility is going to be located. So I do have Emma Stasek here today from MEDC, if you'd like to come forward and just kind of share the perspective of what's going on at the state level regarding this site.
Is this the microphone? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to join your meeting and your patience while I figure out your fancy microphone over here. As the supervisor mentioned, I am Emma Stasek from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. We've been working with the MIDC development and Meyer on this project for quite some time, and we are optimistic about the value that this development will bring to the community and to the overall economic landscape. We believe that this can be impetus for additional economic development. And as we're optimistic, we've invited Meyer to submit additional brownfield work activities for consideration for the brownfield TIF abatement. And I'm happy to receive any questions if you have any.
This is very important to the MEDC, as this is the last, at least on the Plymouth Township side, it's the last state-owned property.
Correct. As a land bank property, we recognize our obligation to ensure that this is properly cleaned up and delivering tax value.
So obviously the objective of the land bank is to not hold on to land, but actually get it marketable again and get it back on the tax rolls.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So why is MEDC spending valuable I think we had $1 million to market this. Why are we spending it on something other than the original purpose of R&D, light manufacturing? On both sides, Northville and Plymouth Township. Meyer is not R&D, Northville Lumber, Horse Track. So tell me why you've deviated.
On this, we have deferred to the advice and the desire of the local community and from folks like you. So, you know, we've really tried to be supportive of what the community thinks and what officials believe will be the highest yield and best choice for this development.
So you think the community of Plymouth Township wants a Meyer and a Horse Track, so that's why it fits?
We have deferred to city officials to help understand the lay of the land of the local community.
Okay. Well, you're always concerned about the highest and best use for property, so to yield the best outcome for the community.
I was just looking for jobs that maybe were a little different or more permanent.
Yeah. Well, markets change.
Here, our primary concern is that the site is cleaned up correctly.
Yeah.
And that the liability of, you know, the underground systems that Mr. Harless mentioned are addressed the right way.
And make it marketable. I mean, as I pointed out earlier, we already have a company that's looking to locate right here. They know that they are also going to have cleanup activities that they have to do, as this is the most challenging site of all sites within the MITC corridor.
So what is the MEDC's relationship to the land bank? How are those connected?
I am unprepared to answer that question.
Okay.
And can get additional information and follow up with you.
Okay, no problem. I'm just curious.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to adopt Resolution 2024-03-26-15, authorizing the approval of the Michigan International Technology Center Redevelopment Authority, MITC, Base Brownfield Plan Amendment Number 5.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Mr. Stewart, do you want to second that? Sure. Okay, very good. With a question or comment? Oh, later on. Okay, take the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Clerk Vorva, yes. Trustee Kermy.
No.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Good luck getting home. It's a little rough out there. Yes, sir. Real quick.
I'd like to address Ms. Stasek.
It's got to be
quick.
It's got to be quick, sir.
Okay. First of all, thank you, and thank the supervisor for your comment to our board meeting. I happen to have been involved with MEDC and supported. And I suffered a little criticism within my own caucus, in spite of voting with them 99% of the time for 6 years as a state rep. And dialing back here for 60 seconds, I understand you made a similar presentation to the Northville Township trustees, and it was unanimously approved.
No, it was 4-2.
4-2.
Oh, okay. All right. Since we have you here, I want to talk about what I call the most positive thing that's happened. And I gave you a copy of a letter.
Yes.
A year ago, Governor Whitmer, who I served with for 6 years in the House of Representatives, was in Oslo, Norway. Cranes carried an article. I mean, your title is Business Development Manager, Regional Prosperity. Mm-hmm. My letter to Governor Whitmer, Secretary Granholm, whom I met with for breakfast, Congresswoman Dingell, it starts out with the reason for my letter is to thank you and to describe the Norwegian hydrogen fuel plant as a huge gift, a game changer, 517 jobs coming. Now, I've asked the supervisor, and we don't really know when we're going to break ground. I've talked to Quentin Messer, your boss, the top man at MEDC, because we'd like to really do this with class.
Yes.
Some of us who like classical music believe in the song in Norway.
Okay, John.
I've been approached by the Scandinavian Club, the Swedish Club of Southeast Michigan, and they would like to welcome the corporate officials of the Norwegian hydrogen fuel plant at a concert and a reception at our St. John's resort.
Okay.
So can you carry that message back that we'd like to know a date? And please, Mr.
No, come on.
Supervisor, don't be rude.
I'm not being
Don't
rude.
be rude.
You've dominated
You
the
have a
situation here. Okay,
tremendous talent
all
for
right,
rudeness.
okay.
Please.
All right, John.
Would you kindly please ask when we're going to see groundbreaking of the Norwegian hydrogen fuel plant in Plymouth Township, which was selected by, looks like Secretary Granholm.
I'll do my best.
And Quentin Messer, I know, is very supportive and excited to bring this plant. And the more I read and research about hydrogen fuel, this is exciting and very positive. So if you would kindly please carry the message.
I'll do my best and
let
please
us
share
know
your
it's
excitement.
positive. It's all good. It's all positive.
I read it. Yes,
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, we're going to move on to item G4. This is extension of the paramedic ambulance service agreement with Huron Valley Ambulance. I'm recommending a 9-month extension to the end of this year, December 31st, 2024. It's very self-explanatory. We still require their assistance when they are available. Need a motion?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move that the Board of Trustees adopt Resolution 2024-303-26-17, approving a 9-month extension of the paramedic ambulance service agreement with Huron Valley Ambulance Incorporated to December 31, 2024, and authorize the supervisor and clerk to sign on behalf of the
Motion is
township.
made by Clerk Borba. Is there a second? Second by Trustee
I
Monahan.
have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Give me the background on this. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why is it 9 months?
We're currently in the middle of, at the end of a 6-month extension that we granted back, I believe, in September of last year. The contract needs to be renewed, so we're kind of going on a month, we were sort of going on a month-to-month basis there, and now we're just extending it to, for the rest of the year.
Is the deletion of their contract in your bargaining right now with the union?
No.
The firemen's union? Is it on the table?
It's always on the table as a matter of discussion because we have to gauge their level of service with the community needs and then also with our internal staffing restrictions. It's very difficult to hire any first responder right now, and fire is no different. And so this is a good belt and suspenders for us.
Great, yeah, it's equivalent of.
major
If they're
strategic.
working, it could be 4 people for free if they're available,
Right, it's a major strategic
for
decision.
free,
Okay.
no cost.
Well, we had a motion on the table, so
Yes.
Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes,
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Trustee Kermy?
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Motion carries.
All righty, thank you very much. We're going to move back now to item G5. This is the water AMI assessment. We'll have both Pat Felrath up here. Pat, always, you're a tall dude, so speak loudly and
I'll try my best.
carry a big stick, right? And then Bob will help you out as well.
Good evening, members of the board. Tonight's presentation will be performed by myself and Trustee Treasurer Doris Shevitz. I will lead off providing an overview of AMI technology and offer an explanation as to why we're considering its implementation now. And then Treasurer Doris Shevitz will take over about midway when we talk about the financial analysis for the implementation. We both, Trustee Doris Shevitz and myself, do request that you please hold your questions until after the presentation to allow us to present this information and bring everybody to the same level of understanding. And at the end, we'll take and respond to questions and carry out discussion if necessary. Bob, you can switch to the next slide. So the question may have come across your mind as to why we should consider implementing advanced metering infrastructure, AMI technology, and why now. In short, implementing AMI offers opportunities for improved efficiencies and savings in water meter reading and billing and improved customer service, which I will detail soon in the next few slides. And secondly, the timing is right for considering its implementation. Those first two bullets under summary of key issues indicate that the township needs to replace its water meters, both residential and non-residential water meters. And AMI installation is typically tied to a system-wide water meter replacement program because there are economies of scale for procurement and implementation when both projects happen at the same time. Replacement of water meters system-wide is a large capital project. This is a necessary project and it should not be deferred. Water meters are mechanical devices. They have moving parts. They're subject to wear and tear. And as they age, they become inaccurate. They tend to slow down and become inaccurate. And as a result, billing becomes inaccurate and unreliable, and we lose revenue. So now is the time to consider if an incremental investment in AMI meter reading technology should be made. Bob, let's go to the next slide. I'm gonna hit on those other bullet points as we talk about the use and benefits of AMI. So what is AMI? To understand it fully, let's look at the evolution of meter reading, water meter reading, and then we'll discuss how we currently read water meters today in the township. So the traditional approach is manual reading. This is where a water meter reader walks from house to house, knocks on the door, gains access to the premises, and reads the water meter register, records it on paper. About 25 years ago, the technology changed, and a lot of communities transitioned over to AMR, and that's called automatic meter reading. Sometimes you may have heard it as mobile AMR or drive-by AMR. And this technology, mobile AMR, uses a transmitter that's connected to or made part of the water meter. And it sends a signal to a receiver that's either carried or driven nearby. So up there in the picture, you see a truck driving by houses with water meters. The receiver is usually typically mounted on top of the truck. So it's much more efficient than manual reading because you're driving around collecting water meter readings. Today, it's common, and a lot of the communities have or are transitioning, to automatic metering infrastructure, and that's AMI. And like AMR, you have a transmitter that's either made part of the meter or it's connected to the meter. It sends a signal, but this time under AMI, it sends it to fixed data collectors that are some distance away. And so everything is automatic, and it's collecting meter readings at a much greater frequency than AMR. We're collecting hourly, daily readings. So you can imagine the benefits that are implied when you're collecting that much data, 24 hours of hourly data readings for a house, and you're eliminating the need to dispatch anyone really to collect a meter reading. The efficiency for operational costs is tremendous. And as that diagram points out, that AMI provides tools for customers to actually monitor and manage their own water usage data through a customer web portal. Before we get into the benefits, one other point about there on that slide. If we go back to that slide, Bob, where we are today and how we read meters today, our approach is very similar to manual meter reading. We do have meter readers, and they have to walk house to house. But instead of gaining access inside the house, our meter readers have to touch the side of the house, physically touch it with a handheld device where there is a touchpad mounted on the side of the house. So it's similar. It's more similar to the manual reading than it is AMR. We do not have AMR. We're not driving around. We are physically walking up to every house and touching the side of the house to collect a water meter reading. So relatively speaking, compared to AMR and AMI, it's inefficient, quite honestly. And the task is not a preferred task of any of our employees to walk from house to house. So it's usually assigned to a staff person with the least seniority. And there's training involved, and there could be productivity issues in terms of misreads, missing reads that require rereads. And of course, this is labor intensive. It typically requires 2 to 3 staff people to read meters anywhere from 1.5 to 3 weeks out of every month. And it's largely dependent on staff availability and weather conditions. In the wintertime, when there's a lot of snow, it's not uncommon for us to take 3 weeks to read water meters and make sure that the bills get out at the end of the month. Another thing to consider, the Department of Public Works here at Plymouth Township, when we're at full strength, we have 8 full-time staff people, 8. And we're responsible for all field work, not just meter reading. Right now, due to high turnover, unfilled positions, and retirements, we currently have 6 full-time field workers. 1 is on medical leave, so that leaves us with 5 full-time field workers. So when you're talking about dedicating 2 to 3 people to read meters 2 to 3 weeks, 1.5 to 3 weeks every month, that leaves little staff to do anything else in the township. Within the past 2 years, we have experienced tremendous turnover in the department. Just within the past 2 years, we've had 3 retirements. Each one had more than 25 years of experience. Also, within the past 2 years, we've had 3 staff that left within 2 years of their employment. And within the past couple of years, we've had 2 additional staff leave within 6 to 8 years of their employment. That's a total of 8 people leaving in a 2-year period. And currently, as I mentioned, we have 2 unfilled positions. So we are working with 6 full-time staff, 1's on medical leave. Like I said, we're reduced down to 5. And I would not be surprised. In fact, I expect 2 additional staff to leave within 3 to 5 years, if not sooner. So eliminating the labor and the resources dedicated to water meter reading through AMI would be a tremendous benefit that would increase reliability, and it would make us more sustainable, really, because we're not so relying on labor to get the water meter reads every single month. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
I cannot read the orange bars. What is the headings there? What does that say?
The orange bars just say that, you know, the first generation of automatic meter reading was automatic or mobile AMR, which utilities would on a monthly basis drive around to their throughout their community to pick up mobile meter reading.
So that's percentages or something there?
No.
Just a graphic.
It just says monthly reading reactive. It's more of a reactive type approach, as opposed to AMI, where you're getting automatic hourly, daily reads without sending anyone out in the field to collect meter reads. So this slide is just recapping again what automatic meter reading infrastructure is. On the left, you got the meters. On the upper left, you see that device there. That's the radio transmitter. It's very similar in size, and it looks almost like our existing touchpads that are attached to the side of the house. So if the township were to implement AMI, we would simply just switch out the touchpad with a radio transmitter. And then the middle screen, that's where the fixed data collectors, that shows that the collectors can be mounted on rooftops, towers, light poles, or utility poles. And the bottom note mentions that it's a two-way communication system. That means that both the radio transmitter and the fixed data collector are capable of transmitting and receiving information. We can send information to the meter, like control signals, firmware updates, or if you need an on-demand read, we can push a button and get a water meter reading from the meter. So that's what that means, two-way communication. And then, of course, AMI involves additional software and data management that does analytics to the data that's received. Okay, next slide, please. So let's talk real quick about the benefits. I already talked at length about one of the huge benefits is virtually eliminating meter reading, manual meter reading. We would still have some site visits, I imagine, but they would be reduced, but we wouldn't have this routine meter reading that we have now. So that would be a big operational cost savings. The other big benefit that I see for AMI is improved customer service. And this is interesting because there's a lot of factors that go into improved customer service. Some of them can be quantified or monetized, which we try to include in the financial model that we'll speak to soon. But a lot of them are qualitative. They can't be monetized. For example, you know, we're talking about customers having access to daily, hourly water usage data. They will have the ability through a customer web portal to monitor and manage their own water usage. And this technology, AMI, also offers early leak detection, meaning that a customer will be able to set and receive automatic notifications for high usage via text or email. I mean, that's tremendous because that will help someone know right away that there's high usage compared to their average usage, and they can detect a leak right away as opposed to waiting 3 months and getting a single water meter reading.
So, Patrick, how will that be accomplished? Will people have an app that they can download?
It's through a customer web portal.
Okay.
Yes, they would have the technology, the app, and as long as they have internet connection, they can do it. This would, so with the early leak detection and the customers having the empowerment to manage their water data, this would obviously reduce the number of calls and complaints about high water bills. Again, they would have access to hourly consumption data rather than a single quarterly read that they're currently receiving from the township. One reading every 3 months, they would get over 2,000 readings every 3 months because they would be getting 24 readings in a day. This would reduce the number of follow-up calls. This would increase that one-call resolution. When somebody calls about their bill or about a meter, our normal response is to send somebody out in the field to read the meter. It's usually the customer demands that. And we know ahead of time that the meter is unlikely to be the cause of the issue, but we still have to perform it. If we had this technology, you would both have the customer and the service representative from the township. We would have all the historical profile, hourly data reads, and our staff would be trained in determining high water usage versus their average water usage, how much the high water usage is, when did it start, when did it stop, is it likely the cause of a leak? See, all that can be handled during the original call instead of us going out in the field, coming back, calling them back. It's much more efficient. This would also reduce the number of estimated bills our water billing specialist does on a monthly basis. Estimated bills result in dollar and billing adjustments. That would be reduced because of this near real-time data that we would be receiving. So customer service, there's the other bullets real quickly. Revenue enhancement, that's facilitated by the increased meter accuracy. It's the AMI-based leak detection and theft detection. That's part of the technology too. And that would enable us to switch from quarterly to monthly billing for residential. And that would definitely improve cash flow management, getting out the bills on a monthly basis. Next item, no manual data handling. Again, this is all automatic. So you're gonna take out the human factor in a lot of this. As an example, when our meter reader has to, our water billing specialist in reading water meters has to download account information to the gun. And our meter readers take that account information in their gun, collect the meter readings, then they have to come back and then they have to upload that data to the water billing software. So there's a lot of handling of the data, transfer of the data manually that's occurring. And also our water billing specialist, when she does estimates, she has to print out the historical usage and start doing calculations via the calculator. This whole manual data, the human factor, a lot of it I think can be eliminated, and it would be, again, more sustainable because you're not relying on people, a few people not being there or making a mistake. The other benefit, we've got simplified final water bills. So this means when a customer calls up the township, wants to either start an account or end an account, move in, move out, sometimes it's referred to as. There's one of two ways we do it now. We either have to send somebody out there to collect the final reading, or we instruct, and this is the common remedy right now, we instruct the customer to take a photograph of their meter register and email it to us. This would be eliminated, and because we would have the capability now of receiving an on-demand water meter reading at the time of the call, and that would be the final water bill. Other items, this supports, when you're having this wealth of data, it's limitless in what you can do. We talk about rate design. If we ever want to revise our unit factor schedule, for example, you have classes of customers now that can be their usage, their profile over time can be computed, and you can revise that table. Capital improvement planning, you should have a better calibrated hydraulic model with all this data. And improved emergency response, that's an important one too, because this technology monitors backflow or reverse flow. And so if a flag or an alert came across our desk that there was backflow, that would be an emergency type situation that we would probably have to dispatch somebody out there, because that could be a potential contamination. incident. Or they also have theft alerts. If someone tampers, reverses the meter, or plays with the meter, we get an alarm for that too. Next. So I will have to say that there is a lot of misinformation about smart meters and AMI technology on the internet. And AMI smart meter phobia is common, unfortunately. So an important work item in any implementation is to develop and prepare, and that would be part of the contract, a public engagement effort where you have to ensure customers that there are no public health or safety effects as a result of exposure to these very low radio transmissions. And there's enough information, we have to get it out through the FCC, the FDA, OSHA. There's reputable sources that from the science and medical community. But this would be an important part of an implementation before you even switch out the first meter. An open house information may be necessary. We would have to maintain a website dedicated for the project that would have commonly Q&As, question and answers. Having said that, no matter how much information you push out, you have to expect that at least 2% of the account holders will adamantly oppose AMI. So you got to expect at least 200 accounts will adamantly oppose it no matter what you say. So the township, just like the electric company, we would have to develop an opt-out program. And an opt-out program would give the customer the option of not having AMI technology to continue have a manual meter reading for them. Now, to do this, it would take time to create a policy because we would have to go through the entire billing and reading process to come up with a cost, how much it would cost us to routinely gather a manual reading from their meter. And this cost, we don't, it's not going to be punitive by any means. We're not trying to make money, but we do have to cover the cost to continue to manually read their water meter, and they would be charged every billing cycle. So you have to keep that in mind that we will need that program because there will be people that will not want this technology no matter what. Can we have the next slide, please? So who has deployed AMI? A lot of the surrounding neighboring communities have it. And I didn't survey all communities in Southeast Michigan. These are the ones that either I knew of that are close to us. Some of them that are not so close to us are similar in size in terms of population. The city of Plymouth just installed AMI technology last year. Van Buren Township installed AMI. Livonia has it. Redford Township, Novi. Canton Township is currently in the process of putting up data collectors and switching over to AMI. Northfield Township has had AMR. I don't know what their plans are. And then, of course, we already have AMI in the township. The electric company, DTE, they're 100% in the township, and they have AMI. And they do have an opt-out program, so I'm sure there's some township residents that have opted out of their program. But that's how DTE currently collects their readings in Plymouth Township. So now we go into the financial analysis. Bob, this is where I would...
Okay, yeah, I'll speak to some of this. So what we did was we engaged a consulting firm that did a couple things for us. One is they did some analysis around the long-term cost and where there's financial benefit. They also worked directly with the bidders to negotiate better pricing, and it was a really good move to do that. One of the things that I think is important to understand is that this is not really a pure financial play. there is the question that we really wanted to understand is whether there is a break-even point. Is this an investment, long-term investment that represents a cost without an eventual return on investment? And that was the challenge, because again, it's not about financial advantage. What we need to understand is, does it represent an investment that we would never recoup? So the first, and the assumptions, the deployment timeline is about 3 years, so it's a year to design and build, and then a two full year deployment phase. One thing that Patrick said that I really want to drive home the point is that we need to do something because our meters are hitting end of life. So there's a layer here to replace all the meters manually, and the question is, do we want to add this additional layer, which would include the AMI? I think it's really important that if we decide to go forward as a board, that we have, if not unanimous, near unanimous support for it, because I wouldn't want to move forward on a split decision. That's my opinion. So that's really fundamentally the question in the long term, is that do we stick with the past, or do we move forward into the future? It's about a 20-year life cycle of an AMI system, which would be true whether there's meter replacement only, or we added the AMI layer. Excuse me. So there were basically two finalists, USG Water and Ferguson. What this chart tells you is that in the first two columns here, and Patrick can speak more to why, what the advantage of this solution over the other bidder was, and why we're seeing a delta in the cost, but I'll just hold that for a minute. So we looked at first what would be an average cost of a meter replacement only, and that came out to about $5 million. The USG Water replacement would be about 5.2 for the meters only, and then the AMI later would add about another $2.4 million over the 20 years. On the Ferguson side, it was about $4 million for the meter replacement, and about another 1.896 for the AMI layer. Sorry, I'm losing my voice for some reason, and that's a tragedy.
You got what I have.
So the estimated annual operating expenses are here on this slide. There's some asset management services that would be provided. One of the key differences between these two offers is that the USG offer is it's a turnkey solution that you can kind of think of as a managed solution versus, it's a managed solution versus the other option, which is more of a turnkey that we would have to manage ourselves going forward. So that's one of the big differences. In the financial analysis on USG, the meter replacement only, I'd mentioned, is about 5.3. There's an upfront CapEx cost per meter, and one of the assumptions in this analysis is that if we did not, that by virtue of adding the AMI layer, we're buying a bundled offer from that vendor, and therefore the meter element of it would be more expensive if you separated that out. There's economies of scale that come out of that. But you can see in here the upfront CapEx, and then there's a 20-year OpEx benefits, and all this stuff went into this model that the consultant uses, and copies of the output of that model were provided to you. But there's some other financial metrics, the net present value, assuming a 3% discount rate. That's basically telling you that is there a point in time at which you would be cash flow positive? Internal rate of return is also, it's a different cash flow calculation that tells us you want that number to be positive. So if we replace the meters only, what this is telling you here is if we replace the meters only and you were looking at this purely from the financial standpoint, there would never be a time over that 20-year period in which we broke even. It would be an investment and it would have a negative return on investment. But when you add the AMI layer in there because of some of the benefits that Patrick articulated, there is a positive return on investment and a payback period of combined payback period of 17 years. So it's, it's not, it isn't, again, it's not like something you would see in a IT project that would have a 18-month or 2-year payback period. That's not the point here. The point was to determine whether we'd ever be above water. And at some point we break even on this. So this last calculation is a benefit to cost ratio, saying that, and these numbers all kind of tie together. This one is just a chart that's showing cash flow in year 4. The cash flow would be heavy as the build out is ramping up, and once the build out comes in, then the curve moves up until you get to that year where the break-even point is, and you get the return. It should be year 17. So in year 17, you basically recouped your investment with the net present value calculations included into that. So at some point again, I mean, somebody could say, 17 years, that's crap, but again, that's not really the point. I would really want to drive that home. This was the Ferguson analysis. It was a little bit better in terms of payback period because the meters, the difference in the Ferguson solution is that we're tied to one brand of meter. In the USG solution, it's open architecture, so we can substitute different brands of meters if we choose to do that. And the technical details, some of our vendors in the back, if we have any more technical details. And then this was the financial analysis for the meter replacement only, which came out to be, as I had said before, no payback. So this is the same data that was presented in the other slide, no payback. So the recommendation is the USG water. Do you want to kick it back, Patrick?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Patrick, hang on a second. I made a couple of notes. So meter reader is not a profession I would recommend anybody get into because that's just not going to exist. But again, we don't have, we couldn't do a project like this with internal resources. And what we're finding is that when there's a job posted for meter reader, if we get any applicants at all, that's not the norm. So one of the things I wanted to underscore was the radio transmitter itself sits outside the home, with the exception of in businesses, it's on the inside, and there's a few exceptions to that, but for the most part, it sits outside the home. And I think it's only transmitting 4 times a day, right? It's accumulating the data, and then it's transmitting like 4 times a day.
That's correct, yeah.
So what you're not seeing, if you have a Wi-Fi router in your home, you're seeing a continuous transmit of heartbeats and data is continually transmitting from that Wi-Fi router inside your home. This is sitting outside the home, and it's not, when your Wi-Fi router is transmitting a lot of volume of data, if you're on the internet or you're streaming movies or anything like that, it's huge amounts of data that are being transmitted inside your home. This sits outside the house, and it's data only, and data is low bandwidth. So all it's doing is 4 times a day, it connects back out to the network, and it dumps the data that it was accumulating throughout that period of time. And then if it can't connect, it'll catch up later. So basically, it's not a continuous stream of data that is being transmitted out of this, and I really want to drive that point home.
Earlier slide, you said hourly, so.
It's collecting it
It's
hourly.
transmitting data 1 to 4 times a day, but it's transmitting all the hourly data. So it's being collected at the transmitter. The transmitter is hardwired to the meter.
So you know how you have the port on your house now with the wire to the meter? That stays intact, and where the little nub is that they connect to, that's where the transmitter goes. So it's collecting the data via hardwire. It's not transmitting, and then it basically does a handshake. It phones home 4 times a day and does a handshake and says, "Here's all the data I have since the last time we consolidated."
The transmission is less than a minute per day. Less than a minute. So it's just either it's 1 times a day or 4 times a day. It's shooting out in seconds. So the total transmission in a day is less than a minute.
Yeah. So though, if we decide to move forward, then the question is, how do we pay for it, which would be a subsequent conversation. We could pay cash, we could finance it, or we could do some combination thereof, and that's a decision the board would have to explore at a later date.
Bonding is allowed?
Yes, yeah. How long has AMI been around, do you know?
For at least 25 years. We have representatives from the recommended solution here tonight. They can probably speak more to that, but 25 years? Since 1997.
So this is a mature technology. This is not new technology. This has been around, and as you could see, all our neighbors are doing it. It would provide substantial benefit. So, you want to take it over?
Yeah. So going back to the recommendation, and this wasn't me selecting, and it wasn't me and Bob selecting the solution. We put together all the pertinent staff in the township over a course of, what was it, 3 months, 4 months?
We've been
or
on
even
this
longer
for
than
over a
that.
year.
And we interviewed the vendors. They came in and out for over a 6-month period. So we did our homework in terms of the different technologies that were submitted to us as part of our request for proposals back in 2022. So this has been a journey. This has been a 2-month process of researching and doing the financial model. This is not something we just decided to do this year. But the recommendation from the review of the proposals was USG. Now that's the more expensive option of the 2 that were selected, but we feel that the benefits outweigh the cost. Number one, and these are the big advantages of selecting USG water. It's an open architecture system. In other words, what they claim, and they're here tonight, and they can follow up with me, that we can use any type of meter brand, and we would get all the enhanced features of that meter. Now, it's important to note, we're still going to use the same type of meter. It's going to be a positive displacement meter. So it's not your typical smart meter, because you're still using the positive displacement meter that you have today. It might be a different brand. Instead of Neptune, you might have a Badger, but it's the same technology. It's the same type of meter that would be wired to the transmitter. So that's a big advantage, because right now we're basically Neptune, and if anything that we've learned during COVID is, boy, it would be nice to have a selection, because the lead times and the costs, they tend to change without notice nowadays. So we felt that was a big advantage. Coverage of the fixed data collectors, USG Water, they demonstrate and they claim that they can have double redundancy, meaning that every radio signal is heard by 2 fixed data collectors. So if a data collector went down for loss of power, you would still receive it. You're still getting practically 100% coverage of the township if one data collector goes down. And that was not offered from the other vendors. So that's going to lead to a higher hourly daily read rate, which, you know, they claim that they have the highest read rate success in the industry. You know, and that's something we would probably broach with them if we were to negotiate with them, to have some type of service performance in the contract, because that's really high. They use a different frequency. Their frequency is licensed, as opposed to Ferguson's was unlicensed. So this is at a lower frequency band, 450 to 470 megahertz.
So we have our own exclusive channel.
Yeah, we would have our own licensed,
Yes.
you know, only licensed operators would be on that channel, on that band.
So if somebody still
Lesser
has an
interference would
old
be the-
900 megahertz landline
Yeah.
wireless phone in their house.
And another huge benefit of this solution is that they have a low battery alarm. So all these radio transmitters that are on the outside wall of the house, they have a battery in them. And this system would indicate through the network if a battery was low and needed to be replaced. This is not offered by the other solutions. When the other solutions, when a battery goes dead, then you get the flag, it's dead. You got to hurry up and run out there and switch out the transmitter. But this is a little bit more proactive, because when you know you got some low battery transmitters, you can start switching them out before they actually die. That was
Battery replacement is in your cash flow?
Yeah.
analysis?
Yeah.
How much does it
Again,
cost,
no, these
and
are
how long do they last?
These batteries are guaranteed for 20 years, so they're prorated after 10 years. Basically, is how this works.
What kind of battery is it?
It's a lithium-ion battery.
And it lasts 20 years?
Yeah.
In cold weather outside?
Yes, on the outside. And what they're sealed inside the transmitter. So when a battery goes dead, what you'll ultimately be doing is just switching out the transmitter. You won't be switching out the battery.
Complete change out.
Yeah. Another benefit that we felt is that we could, perhaps at several locations where these fixed data collectors are going in, we can have a lower antenna height than your other vendors. The other vendors require anywhere from 75 to 100 feet tall antennas. You know, you're looking at a large monopole, maybe, unless you have something to put it on top of.
You tend to have dedicated antennas, or you'll use other people's poles?
Well, the ideal, I think, would be to use whatever buildings we have that are owned by the township, the antenna on top of. And then I think ideally we would put it on a Wayne County or MDOT utility pole, put an antenna on top.
Yeah,
These antennas only have to be 30 feet, so.
How far apart do they have to be?
One of the first steps is to do a survey,
A propagation study.
Yeah,
Which
a
they
propagation
did.
survey.
They came up with 5 to 10 collectors for the township.
16 square miles.
Yes.
So like, but when they do a propagation survey, you can tell, like you ever go through the dead zone on Beck between the Ann Arbor Trail and Ann Arbor Road? There's a dead zone in there. And I don't, they'll find things like that and make recommendations for where we best place the collectors. Do we want to,
Yeah, we got.
do we want to bring the vendor up?
Yeah, today we got representatives. Noel, do you want to? Sure. Introduce yourself.
Hey, Patrick, before they start, I mean, I do want to focus again more on the customer experience. Water is a utility.
Sorry.
Pat, no, I mean, he can wait on deck, but water is a utility, as is electric and gas. I have apps on my phone for DTE and for consumers. I pay my bills online using that app. I can monitor my usage. I can compare month to month, which would be great. What would this do? And I know that there's an online portal that I could pay under this new system. But what would this do to the other element, the mailing of, because one of the big complaints that we always get is getting that bill, that water bill in the mail. It's on a postcard that looks like something that they put my, my grades on when I was in 5th grade, and I get that card in the mail. It's all dot matrix. I'm amazed that there's still a machine
Is that why they all say D on it?
no, it was all A, all A's. And so I'm amazed that we still have a machine that operates that punch card or that card system. I know that the woman in our office who manages that system, if she wins the lottery or retires, we're kind of in trouble trying to, we're trying to train people all the time, but as you know, we have turnover in many departments right now. What would that, so as a customer, and also the mail is unreliable. We have a very short window for people to pay their water bills. We have a lot of snowbirds and people who are out of town. They don't get it in time. And then we also have the unreliability of the mail system nowadays, unfortunately, but it's a fact. And so when would people, what would your bill look like? When would you get it? And then under what kind of a format? Is that a letter? Is it a card? Or is it something online? Because I know, like with my other utilities, I don't get anything in the mail. It's all online.
Yes. I want to introduce to you to Andre Knoll from
Yes.
USG. He
Okay.
can speak more about the customer portal.
Sure, okay.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, my name's Andre Noel. I represent USG Water Solutions. I'm the Director of Revenue Management and Metering Services. And it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. In regards to the customer portal and billing, I heard that question. It truly is customizable. So you can provide as much information as you wish to the resident or as little. So when it comes to billing, the type of information, the granularity that you would like to provide to them, it's completely controlled by you. And so we will certainly be working together with you and with your customers, and so that you have the best fit that works best for everybody.
Any other questions? Bob, do you want to?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so when you go back to the network and you have the poles,
Yep.
and what was that called again?
Those are the fixed data collectors.
Okay. Where are those going to be placed? Is that the one you're talking about, the utility
Yeah,
poles?
we talked about this. So they did a radio propagation study, and we're going to need, I can't remember offhand, it's anywhere from 5 to 10 data collectors. And I know at least 5 of the locations will be on township-owned property. So we would have an antenna, for example, on each of the water tanks. We would have an antenna on top of this building. We would have an antenna where the Country Acres pump station is. The antennas have to be 30 feet high. So ideally, we want to mount them where there's already a pole, a utility pole, a light pole, a rooftop. If not, if there was a location where we needed a fixed data collector, it has to be at least 30 feet high. So it might, in that case, and I don't know how likely it is, but a pole 30 feet high would have to be installed. Okay. Now the other vendors, they need, like I said, anywhere from 75 to 100 feet high. They need that line of sight.
Now, there were a couple of people that came up and expressed their concern about this energy that the system puts out and the possible prognosis of cancer because of that. Do you know how much energy a utility pole
Well, I
puts
know
out?
that that a radio transmission from this AMI system averages about 1 watt. 1 watt of power.
That's from the meter.
From the radio transmitter.
That's on the side of my house.
Correct. So they're very low radio frequency that's being emitted on the outside. Now, again, you got to remember the FCC governs all wireless communication in this country. They have maximum exposure limits. This is like, and I've read this, because it's less than 1, maybe 2% of the maximum exposure limit to the general population for exposure to radio, electromagnetic radiation.
Where would you be the most susceptible then to getting that radiation on your body?
And these FCC limits, they're set by you're standing 8 inches from the radio transmitter. That's how they set the limits.
Okay.
So those FCC exposure limits, that's assuming you're standing 8 inches away from the radio transmitter. How likely is that? You know, at 1 watt of power, I mean, you're getting 1,000 times more. You're getting pretty much 1,000,000 times more radiation by carrying on a cell phone conversation.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I have a whole bunch of questions that came out through the whole thing here, but 60% of our water cost is fixed. How much leakage are we getting, or unmetered water loss?
We're at about 6%, which is low.
6% we can't account for, in other words.
6% of what?
6% of the water we can't account for.
Okay.
Non-revenue water, correct.
So we're spending a ton of attention on 40% of the cost, right? That's what we're doing here.
Well, you're looking at one benefit.
Right, okay.
There's numerous benefits.
Right, all right. I went through this, I took some notes. So why with USG being 30%, if you use Ferguson as a base, 30% higher, tell me, is it worth spending an extra almost $2 million bucks? Is it 2 million? Let me look here, I did the math. You guys should know it off the top of your head, what is it? Right? Help me out.
Yeah, it's more expensive, like I mentioned.
7.7 versus 6.
Yep.
So,
well,
not quite 2 million. So.
No, and I refer back to that slide, Bob, where we listed the reasons why. And I think these are, if you go to where we recommended USG, these bullet items, this is the reason why we're recommending them. This is the reason why we think we should spend the extra money, provided that we can afford it. We should select this system.
What about the monitoring of the infrastructure or the replacement of the infrastructure? The other solution, we would be responsible for the collectors.
Yeah, this is more of a managed solution. In other words, they're with us throughout the duration of the life of the product. In other words, they will maintain the fixed data collectors.
So it's a service agreement of some type?
Correct. That's part of the.
It's a different approach. The other approach is a turnkey. So if a collector went down, we'd have to have either a third-party vendor that we had a relationship with and spare parts. We have to worry about spare parts. We have to worry about replacement, stuff like that.
So you're saying USG is not going to charge you a per-hour rate to do work? Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you've imputed some decay over the life of the product, and it's baked that into your price. Because you have a projection of how much service you will have to, how much service you will have to do.
Well, USG,
if you're doing it with no extra cost after the initial capital outlay.
Yeah, USG's approach to asset management, AMI systems, is a little unique. We put everything under an asset management program. So we're monitoring the system every single day. And because we're monitoring the system, we are responsible for taking care of the network, the software, and everything associated with it, including the MTU on the side of the house. So that's our responsibility.
Including what? I didn't hear that.
Including the endpoint that's on the side of the house. That's our responsibility. And we take responsibility for it for 15 years.
How many?
15.
Isn't it supposed to last 20 years?
It'll work, yes, as Patrick mentioned, about 10 years full, and he goes into a prorated. So around 15, it's time to start looking at.
The battery is guaranteed for 20 years.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is
And that's the
Well-
transmitter, that's really the.
Well, your point is a good one, because the payback is 17 to 20, so it pays back after the asset is used up, which we're gonna have to really dig deep to that's not a normal financial decision where you have a payback that occurs after it's worn out.
The expectation is a 20-year life cycle.
Yeah,
That
we're
was
pretty
stated
close to 17 to pay back. I mean, that's.
Right.
You're gonna have to replace everything by the
20
time
years.
the payback happens.
Yeah.
Which is pretty miserable in the private sector. You'd never invest in something in the private sector that would pay back that long.
Well, again, I thought I was pretty clear that it's not, the question from a financial standpoint is, can we be above water at some point?
Right.
This is not a financial play. We're not building a factory here, we're providing a service to our community.
But the services have to have some financial viability. What do you think the effect on water rates will be? To borrow $7 million?
I think about $1.25 per meter per month, about $20 a year.
Extra.
Yeah.
And are we going to fire any employees in order to make this?
We're firing Patrick.
Yeah.
But what are you going to
Nice knowing you.
No,
What are the employees going to
financial
do?
model did not assume any layoffs. As I mentioned, because of our short staff and the work that we're not getting to, because we're using 3 staff to read meters, and we currently only
Yeah, I'm
have
just
5
getting
to
through.
6. No, it was never
It's not
contemplated.
in here. You didn't assume that.
No, we did not assume that. We assumed that we would keep the same number of staff, and the idea was to reallocate them to work that's not getting done.
Patrick, what kind of projects would that staff be able to focus on that they can't focus on now?
The current one that's going on right now, the complete distribution system materials inventory. I mean, if we had staff, we could have done that inside. We got the equipment, and we tried last year to make a dent in it, and we just weren't able to keep up with the numbers, and we had to end up going out for bids.
We have the lead abatement program, that's a state mandate. We have
Yes.
the water, the sprinkler system review mandate.
Yeah, there's
I mean,
all
we have
types
to
of
farm
things.
most
You
of
know,
that
we
out.
don't-
We don't have personnel to sweep streets. We haven't swept streets
We didn't sweep
in over a
streets
year.
last year. You know, right now, we're dealing
We don't
with
have the
this
people.
turnover that we gotta get 2 more guys hired soon.
And right now, you're having to work overtime on emergencies.
Yes,
Yeah, and so you just don't have the staff right now.
right.
Well, I guess my concern is it's a lot of money for 40% of our water, and it just, I realize we have to replace water meters, but wow, it doesn't jump out at me. It's like, hey, that's a great
Again,
project.
that's one benefit. The way I see it, when you do the financial analysis, the cost-benefit analysis is just right around 1, right? It's on the fence. But if you take into all those benefits that you can't monetize in customer service, I think it tilts it. It
Right
tilts it
now,
to our favor.
I've heard the horror stories. Someone goes away for the winter, something happens with the water, like of I mean, I've had people come and say, I've got a $5,000 water bill.
I understand that, but what you could do
You prevent
is
that.
you could probably write that off. You know, if you had to, you get what I mean? The cost of the water loss will be far lower than the $7 million investment.
Well, let me clarify something, though. It's not a $7 million investment, it's a $2.5 million investment, because we have to make the 5 irrespective of
change
whether
the
this
base
goes
meters.
forward.
Yes.
Yes.
Although that could be something, that isn't something that you have to do at one fell swoop. You would phase it in fact.
We can't do that.
If you don't do it in one
No, I didn't
fell
say do it
swoop,
internally. No, you could contract out, but you don't have to do it all at, you don't have to do the entire township in 3 years.
Well, if you contract it out, you're not gonna be able to contract it out at a rate of doing 5 a month and have somebody that's interested in the project.
Yeah.
They come in and they wanna get in, get the project done, and
And
get
get
out.
But you could do it by zone, since the township was built in phases over a period of 50, 60 years. The way the water system started right here in the east and moved to the west beginning in 1961. And then it's already out to the Napier Road now.
Well, unfortunately, all the meters are of the same age. Because that's when we turned them, we contracted, we did system-wide change out 15 to 20 years ago. So they're all the same age. So if you do that, then you're gonna come across 30-year-old meters in 5 years. So, you know, and there's economies of scale to do it all at once too. But the one scenario that we looked at is not doing AMI, just changing out the meters. And that, you're underwater.
Yeah,
that is not recommended. So this financial model says you should do AMI.
Tell me why
changing
AMI,
out-
if you have the labor
Because
to.
you're not getting the benefits. You're not,
Okay, the labor to change out the water meter is going to be the same under both scenarios, AMI versus no AMI. So I'm trying to understand why you can't do changing out meters without
not the
absolutely having AMI with it.
no, if you do, we didn't look at the scenario of just doing AMI.
No, I didn't say that, no. The baseline is change out the meters with no AMI, just
Correct.
conventional system,
Correct.
manual meter reading.
Yep.
You need to do that, you need to change out the meter regardless of what you're doing.
Correct, and we looked at
But
that
I'm trying to
scenario.
understand, I want you to help me get there, all right? Why does the AMI, when you invest $2.5 million more, why does that make the case better to add another $2.5 million for AMI?
Because
when
you're
not
reaping the benefits, you're reducing the operational costs of the water meter readers.
Service, but
You're
those are
reducing the
soft
costs
things.
and high bills.
Those
You're
are soft ones.
No, it's not. Meter reading?
I don't think it is.
No, what is not soft? I'm sorry.
What's not?
I'm trying to learn.
So I can just say, just from my own experience as a mother of 8, when we first moved to Plymouth, Michigan, and we ran our water for the lawns and everything like that, being able to have some type of an app to have known what I could have expected for my first bill, which was $975.
Welcome to Plymouth.
Yeah, well, I don't think it was welcome to Plymouth. I just didn't realize how much we were utilizing between, moving in and so on and so forth. And I see that as a huge benefit.
Although you can check the history. You could have checked your address
I
history.
wouldn't have known that I could check the history.
On the website, there, you can do it right now. You can check my history.
I'm saying, I much more prefer an app to check and
Yeah,
keep up to date with.
Right,
it.
okay. I understand that, but what I'm trying to get at is it worth the public investment in paying an extra $25 a year for every household for water? That's, if you spend $7 million
So, and
bucks.
I think the case that you're making about the lack of workers on hand for the projects that need to get done, that they can be now dispersed into other areas. I mean, it just sounds way more efficient on all fronts.
But from a capital, it's not efficient from a capital use.
It's
That's
more
what I'm trying to get
sustainable,
at.
that's for sure.
It's not.
It's more sustainable.
But how do you know that in 1 year you won't be able to hire people? I mean, but that's.
Well, nobody has a crystal ball here.
Right.
You like to think that, but, you look
Right now, we're
around
running
and
into challenges.
everybody's got challenges with hiring.
That's self-inflicted, maybe. So I guess that's my concern is this is a huge invest.
Your worry is that we wouldn't have enough money to cover this?
Oh, yeah, you have money, you just raise the water bill, you'll always have money. That's what you would do. So you're not going to, and especially if you bonded it, you'd be required to raise the water bill to the point of paying back the interest and principal on the bonds. That would be required. No lender or bonding agency would permit you to do anything other than that.
Well, I just think the micromanaging of all these details when we have very competent people that are giving us these details is something of
We
tremendous
control the
value.
money.
This is of tremendous value. You've done a great job.
That's our job. Yeah, well, they've done a great job. We're trying to determine whether this is the right thing.
And based on what they've laid out.
You really think so?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
that, it just jumps out at you?
Yeah.
It does.
Really?
This micromanaging is unnecessary.
Really?
for so much
Micromanaging?
things. Yeah.
Oh, Jennifer, come on. That's our job, is to kind of do devil's advocate and understand
You're
this.
the only one that's been talking for an hour.
Yeah.
There's 6
I'm
other
ready to make,
people.
I'm ready to
So
make a
the-
motion.
so-
I'm listening,
Maybe
and I hear great things.
You hear
and
great
I
things.
can agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion.
So
Oh,
the
John's
ask
not in.
at this point is.
What is the ask?
The ask is to authorize the negotiating team to move forward with final negotiations, to prepare the contract, work with the attorneys, the attorney to prepare a contract, and to direct us to move forward with exploring options for paying for it.
Okay.
And coming back with a proposal.
Bob, would that include consultation with our bond counsel at least preliminarily?
Yeah, I'm not doing it myself.
Good.
For everybody's sake.
We like you and I like you that much.
Yeah.
Trust but verify, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Bob, we gotta wait for John. I think he's in the restroom. So, okay then. The other gentleman back there, they're obviously from the same company. Could you guys just come forward real quick and just introduce yourselves for the record? When you've come all this way, you might as well.
Get on the record.
Get on the record and.
We appreciate that, and thank you for.
We can't hear you yet. Wait till you get here.
Hold on, come on.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Kent Beaver. I've got responsibility for the commercial team here in the Midwest. And our job is to make sure that we're partnering with you folks, as we've done with Patrick to date, and make sure that we're delivering what we've proposed and what we've discussed this evening. Our job is to be, as my colleague Bill would say, one throat to choke. When there's challenges and issues, you come to us. We are the facilitator to make sure that those are addressed.
So if we hired you, who's our point of contact? Who's our day-to-day person?
Bill?
Phil?
Hi,
Okay.
Phil.
Make sure they know the background.
Good evening, I'm Bill Boland.
Bill, sorry, Bill.
No problem. I'm a new water system consultant. I just retired out of the public sector after 33 years. I was a DPW director and a utility director prior to that. So I've experienced a lot of meter change outs, and I would be your contact. I live here in the state of Michigan, whereas Andre's out of state, and same thing with Ken.
Okay.
So I would be monitoring this project for you on a day-to-day basis, and I would look at it from an eye of a utility director on your behalf.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, do you have anything else
Yes,
to
I'd
add?
like to make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-03-26-18, authorizing the township's negotiating team to negotiate a final contract terms, conditions, and pricings with USG Water Aclara, is that the proper enunciation?
Yeah.
Aclara, for the proposed water meter replacement and AMI implementation project, and prepare final contract documents for board review and approval.
Motion's been made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Buckley. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heising?
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Buckley?
Yes.
Trustee Kermy?
No.
Treasurer Dorchevitz?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart? Trustee Stewart?
No.
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on now to the next agenda item, which is G6. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a safe trip home. I think it stopped raining finally. Item G6 is possibly, depending on the will of the board, would be the first reading of amendment to section 9303 of the Parks and Recreation Ordinance. And it's raining cats and dogs outside, and it's raining cats and dogs inside too. So Kevin, why don't you take us away?
Nice segue.
Thank you, sir.
Currently, the Parks Ordinance prohibits the presence of all animals, including dogs and cats, within any public park in the township. The proposed amendment to section 93.03 will prohibit all animals except dogs licensed by the township and on a suitable leash, and/or cats in a suitable carrier, cage, or stroller in any public park in the township. The park rules will be amended to reflect this change by way of resolution following the second reading of this ordinance. Does the board have any questions on this?
So where's the 8-foot leash going to be talked about?
That will be in Park Rule 13, which will be changed by resolution at the next meeting.
If we approve this tonight, we have to do, this would be the first reading, second reading would be on April 9th. At that point, we would also be doing all of our necessary final amendments to the park rules. That would only require one resolution vote.
Yes.
All right, ready for a motion?
Whoa, okay, all set? I mean, any other questions from anybody?
Nope.
Okay.
Discussed this a lot last time.
No, that's fine, I'm just
I move that the board approve the first reading of the amendments to section 93.03 of the Parks and Recreation Ordinance.
Okay, motion's made by trustee Kermy. Is there a second? Second by trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you. Next up is the item G7, Kevin.
This would be amendments to the Animals Ordinance. The proposed amendment to section 90.02 will change the definition of kennel to mean a place where more than 4 dogs, which are 3 months old or over, on any one parcel in the township. This will clarify the contradictory definitions of kennel within that section in section 90.02. There's also a proposed amendment to section 90.15 to clean up the existing language to reflect that the dog's owner or custodian, instead of the dog, is responsible for complying with the stated requirements. And there will also be the addition of section 90.15 to require a dog owner or custodian to pick up dog waste while the dog is being walked or run, and the dog waste is on other person's private property or on public property. Would require the owner or custodian to pick up the dog's waste and dispose of it in a sanitary manner.
What's the penalty for that?
That would be a misdemeanor punishable by up to $500 fine, up to 90 days in jail,
Okay.
plus court costs.
Would our ordinance officer be able to enforce that as well? I mean, who would enforce that? I mean,
The ordinance officer or police officers could enforce it.
Okay. All right.
Ready for a motion?
Yep.
Okay.
I move that the board approve the first reading of the amendments to sections 90.02, 90.10, and 90.15, and the addition of section 90.24 to the animal ordinance.
Okay, motion's made by trustee Kermy. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Buckley.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Motion carries.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Kevin, for getting that out for us in 2 weeks' time. That's great. We'll have those 2 items on the next agenda for second reading, as well as the park rule revisions. Okay, we're back to public comment. 3 minutes. Get your thing ready.
Kind of wanted to just ask a few questions while the gentlemen were here that were experts about the smart meter. What are our protections In other words, from a water shut-off standpoint, you've got a truck going down the road with a meter. What's going to stop somebody else, scammers, whatever, using that same type of device, knowing what we have with online scammers right now? How do we protect our data? How does this system protect our water?
It's encrypted. It's like it uses 128 DES, the same as your bank account. So how do you protect your bank account from getting hacked?
It doesn't. It's not protected. That's our problem.
It is protected.
Bank accounts get scammed all the time. They get money taken out of it, get money taken out of your account. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just trying to understand what our protections are as customers
The
here.
data, the transmitted data is encrypted. If you want to argue encryption standards, I'm not a security expert, but you can't hack them. They're closed systems. Your computer can be hacked because somebody says, "Hey, look at this funny joke," and you click on it and you open it, and it infects your computer. But these are closed systems. It's like the reason iPhone, it's difficult to hack the iPhone is because the iOS is a closed system, whereas Microsoft Windows is an open system. But these are not open systems. They're closed. And they use, I think it's 128 triple DES encryption. I think that's the standard they use. So you really can't.
Okay. The other question, the transmission pad is wired to the meter, and there are some people that have an issue with this being right on their house. With it being wired, why can't that pad be customized? In other words, put that pad out at the garage or something. If you don't want that meter right at the house, it wouldn't take much to move that pad to another location. Is that an option?
It might be. We'll take a look at that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, that's, if it could be relocated, I don't see why not. I don't know whether there's a distance limit, how close, it has to be a certain distance from the meter, but you don't want it in the house because of transmission. But back to that earlier comment that Patrick made, the transmitter transmits, it handshakes and transmits at 1 watt 4 times a day. Your cell phone is basically 1 watt. So when you're holding this up to your head, this is an inch from your brain. And that thing is on the outside of the house.
It still emits a magnetic flux. I understand that. But if you could ask that question, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Okay, thank you.
So just to restate what I think your question was, can the homeowner relocate the pad someplace else if they'd like to have it relocated someplace else if they'd like to do that?
Yes.
We'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
Mary Pine, my observation is that you have a human resource problem that you want to have become a human health problem. And it's okay for him to come and talk about the FCC, the captive agency's findings. He has given no information about the National Institute of Health. There's a huge difference between the two. The other thing is that if you're going to call this an opt-out program, it's really a protection racket program, and it's going to be $20. And to the point of using water, it looks like you're also going to have to pay $20 extra, Chuck, because of this huge amount of money you're going to be initiating to do this. And you haven't looked at what it would cost for the bond source. And then you haven't filtered into this the liabilities you possibly have had from the debacle you created with the racetrack. You're talking a lot of money here. And I just wanted to point out to you, Jen, that you've seen nothing yet. I raised 5 kids. Wait till your kids come home with their spouses, with their grandchildren, with the teenage girls wanting to take a gazillion-hour shower. You're going to have a lot of water use. It sounds like this isn't going to save people money. And so you can, it's like monitoring a person's blood pressure when they're in the hospital, in hospice, and you keep monitoring it. It doesn't make a difference if you don't do something about it. You're still going to have the need for the water. I know, having raised a very large family. So it's really an irrelevant point. And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be rude.
And I could have adjusted my water based on.
Well, there's certain things you
feedback I
can't,
could
there's
have
certain
gotten, but
things
I
you
do
can't
thank you.
adjust. But thank you
I do
very
thank
much.
you.
I'm done tonight.
Okay, all set? Everybody all set? All right, board comments. Let's start with Mr. Stewart.
Water bills are gonna go up significantly. I wish we had spent a little more time doing a private sector type of analysis of cost benefit. We could have looked into a more effective way to administer this equipment.
I'm going to take
Thinking
exception.
of,
I'm going to take
excuse me,
exception to that.
don't, there you go, Bob.
John, you don't know what you're talking about. We did enormous amounts of analysis.
Water bills are gonna go up significantly.
No, they're
and
not.
you're responsible.
You're full of it. They're not. You don't know what you're talking about because you sat there on your phone during the entire presentation and you paid no
I read my
attention to
homework.
it. I take total offense to that because there was an enormous amount of work that went into this. And if you took your time ever to read your package, you would have seen that, John.
Bob, accept the responsibility.
John,
Water
there was
bills
an
are going up
enormous amount of work
significantly.
that went into this. You want to come by my office and see it? I'll show it to you.
Okay.
But you were on your phone the entire time during that presentation. You paid
Okay.
no attention, none.
Okay, anything else, John?
I take offense to that. If you don't agree with the program, that's your right, and I totally respect that. I 100% respect that. But to say that there was no analysis done, you're full of crap.
And he's trying to appease his right-wing base, so. Okay, Jen? Can you top that? Tell us about water usage. Never mind.
So I can talk about the Veterans Commission to start, just to give everyone an update. I actually just got a packet today in regards to our honoring our hometown heroes rec march. It looks like I'm gonna have a lot more red tape than I anticipated, so.
From the city, not from
the
us.
city. So we may be adjusting our plans, and with us coming down to the wire, we only have one more meeting. It might be that we have to move this to next year. So we'll see. That next meeting is April 15th, if anyone desires to attend. We do have a Facebook page, again, if anyone's interested, Plymouth Township Veterans Commission. We also have a new and exciting opportunity that's still in the works of acquiring a piece of 9/11, what's the word?
Wreckage, for lack of a better word.
Memorabilia.
I know what it is.
Okay, we know what it is.
I was just trying to come up with
No, we're
a
trying
bigger
to,
word.
yeah.
Yeah, so a piece of
Rec-
paraphernalia of the
memorabilia.
wreckage, which is a small bolt. One of our commissioners is working with the person that's selling it. And we're looking to negotiate the price. But basically, we're moving forward and exploring the opportunity to erect a 9/11 memorial here somewhere in the town hall. And we're very excited about that. So we'll keep you updated on that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I
Okay.
have.
Bob?
As I said, rather animated. If you don't agree with it, I totally respect that. I didn't, and I was asked to help Patrick, figure out how to put this together and how to, how to do an RFP and stuff like that. Not that he didn't know how to do that, but and so I had really, I didn't go into this project a year and a half ago thinking that was a foregone conclusion, but I looked at it and there was a lot of analysis done, particularly around the issue of safety. Like I said, people put cell phones up to their ears and talk for 2 hours, And that's as much radiation as you would get out of this transmitter in a year. The 2 hours that you had that phone next to your brain is, so that was one of the things that I really turned it. But I do respect people that disagree with the program, and I don't, I don't have any animus towards it.
What else is going on in the treasurer's office?
So we've completed this year's cycle. So we start again in about 4 weeks with the summer taxes.
Okay. Well, Bob, I want to thank you personally for your hard work on the AMI project. You and Patrick, it's more than a two-person operation. I know because I stumbled into the conference room more than once to find the whole room packed with you and other DPW staff and consultants who were all working hard to come up with a good plan. And I agree, it's if we can save money on that plan, that's icing on the cake. But really, we have to move away from the current 1970s technology that we have and try to upgrade this as much as possible for customer service. Jerry Vorva.
Everything is fine. Again, I want to express my gratitude
Your mic's off.
I want to express my gratitude to both Bob and Patrick for their hard work on it. They spent a lot of hours on this and a lot of research. And so I appreciate the detail that went into this presentation. So, and I think that in the end, regardless of whether someone likes change going on in different systems, I think at the end of the day that it will be a benefit to the community and to the workers in the township. So thank you very much.
All right, Audrey.
One of the things I saw here tonight was a very good presentation by both Patrick and Bob. And I want to thank you, Bob. Patrick's not here. But I observed this. One of the criticisms that this board has taken on was the fact that we are not transparent, we're not looking and doing our due diligence. This report was amazing in terms, you may not have agreed with it, and that's okay, but it was amazing in its depth and knowledge. I mean, I asked the two questions that I was concerned about. I didn't vote for this initially. I felt today was the time to vote for it. I think we need to move ahead, and I just wanted to make sure about the radiation issue. So we've got before us tonight, we've got a great report that, frankly, I'm like, is he done yet? Is he done yet? Because it seemed so long. It really did. Other than that, I just wish everyone a peaceful Easter week and have a blessed Easter Sunday.
Thank you. Mr. Kirby.
So the AMI presentation, that was, work was well done. Answered a lot of questions. I have a question for the, what's it called, Environmental Commission. I see some of them are here. I saw on their agenda, proposed landscape ordinance. Can you tell me what that is about?
Marianne,
it was on the agenda for the 25th.
Marianne, I think you've been summoned, yeah. You want to comment on that? So this is Marianne McLaren. She's the chair of the Environmental Leadership Commission.
Oh, I don't have to say that then.
No, I did it for you.
Okay, good evening. Actually, there has been some talk about that, and we also have been invited to a study work session with the Planning Commission. I am not, it's April, I forgot what the date was right now. It's on my calendar. That the Environmental Commission has been invited to come to that work session with the Planning Commission, so that there will be a discussion on what the current landscape ordinances are, and then just ideas on how to move forward.
So this is something initiated by the Planning Commission?
I think.
Or by the Environmental Commission?
I think it's both. I know that the Planning Commission had some interest in it too, and the Environmental Commission definitely has an interest in it.
For new building or existing?
We don't know that yet. It said it's a work study. session that is going to be had, so there'll be a lot of things discussed and ironed out, and you're more than welcome to attend that work session also.
April,
I would have to go check my phone.
Whatever,
know I have it in
it's
the
the April
calendar.
Planning Commission meeting
or is it a study session for
It's
the
a
plan?
study session.
of the Planning Commission.
For the
Yeah, it's a
planning
special
commission.
Well,
study session.
I don't know.
believe it's
We'll
the
get that.
first part of April. It's on a Wednesday. I just don't recall the date right now.
I don't know. We'll get that for you.
Got another one, yeah.
It's probably 2 meetings.
So,
All right.
I mean, anybody else on the board trustees is
Commission
welcome
likes
to
to
come
have
to
study
that
sessions.
session also.
I didn't know about it, so good. I'm glad I asked the
So-
question.
And that information came to the Environmental Commission from the city planner, or township planner, excuse me.
I think Laura Hall said what?
She's the one that sent the invite
Oh, the invite, okay,
to the Environmental Commission,
all right. Okay,
okay?
all right, great.
Is that answered?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All set? All set? Okay. So I'm looking at the board agenda. Our next meeting is April 9th, so we're going to have a minor rezoning on Northville Road. We have a couple that's looking to redevelop an old house, and the zoning on Northville Road there is quite sketchy, so we want to help them out with that. Kevin, I don't know if are we any closer today to the Vic Tanny resolution or no?
Incrementally closer.
Okay.
We did meet with the developer's attorney and their litigation specialist, and we're moving slowly but surely.
So I'm going to try to summarize what's going on with that. They originally wanted to come to the board for a special land use, I think, or was it a rezoning?
It would be a conditional rezoning.
Conditional rezoning. Well, it could have possibly included a car wash, and that's something that we are, we feel like we have enough car washes right now in that area. So we're looking to take the old 1980 Vic Tanny consent agreement and amend it to prohibit car washes and other operations, similar operations.
That would be one mechanism, or that would be one way to accomplish that, yes.
Yeah. And so.
The long-term intent is to locate a different type of business that is a drive-through?
Well, they have.
Is that what the proposal is?
They'd like to put a Starbucks there, but this would be for the other lot.
Other section.
Yeah.
East or west of it?
East. Mary Ann. Shh. Shh. We can hear you.
She's not the one talking.
Okay. She's okay. Yeah, so anyway, you'll get all the information when that becomes available, but that's how we're looking to figure that out. We'll have the second reading of the Parks Ordinance, we'll have the second reading of the Animal Ordinance, Parks Rules Revision, and then the Annual Treasurer's Report. Okay. Before then, though, we have the public hearing on April 4th. This is the public hearing regarding the Salem Sewer Project. The public hearing will start at 7. This will be at Northridge Church. At 6 o'clock, though, Eagle is going to be doing a public information 1-hour seminar. I'm not exactly sure what that entails yet, but I think they're going to try to answer as many questions from residents as they can. This story, in my opinion, is the single largest threat to our quality of life, property values that we face right now, bigger than any horse track, bigger than any other Myers or anything else that's been bandied about for the past year. This is a serious issue. The developer is looking to put 840,000 gallons of treated sewage water into the Fellows Creek, which would run directly into Plymouth Township. Unfortunately, it would also really inundate Canton Township. Fellows Creek floods all the time anyway, probably is flooding right now, given the rainfall that we've had. So Canton is now engaged in this as well. They have sent letters of opposition to the state, and I believe they've gotten their legislative delegation involved as well. Our legislators are solidly opposed to this, and they've been a great resource. That's Jason Morgan, Matt Kolazar, Senator Bear and also Congresswoman Dingell have been personally involved in this. So we need a good turnout, and we need folks to express their concerns on how this project's going to impact their lives and also our environment. I also want to mention that I'll be meeting with CEO Warren Evans on Friday, because he's also very personally concerned about this project as well. So please show up on April 4th. It starts at 6 at Northridge. Also on April 4th, 10 a.m., we're going to have our senior fraud seminar. Chief, you want to give us an update on that?
Yes, sir. We have a representative from the Federal Trade Commission coming in from Washington, D.C. to give a presentation at the Friendship Station. These seminars, which we deliver quarterly, will have new and additional information, things that we're seeing day in and day out with fraud investigations. And we're happy to report that last year we saw over 30% reduction in reported frauds in Plymouth Township, and we feel that these seminars are directly helping that, especially with our senior community.
So the date and time of that is?
It's April the 4th at 10 o'clock in the morning at the Friendship Station.
I think the last one was snowed out, wasn't it?
The last one was snowed out, yes, it was. We still had a handful of participants, but we're hoping for more this time, yes, sir.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn. Happy Easter, by the way. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
By Bob, supported by Jerry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, we're adjourned.